I'm working on a bedroom set. Right now on the camera I have two of the nightstands. I have a dresser. Maybe I'll show that later. But what I'm going to be demonstrating is more blending, I guess. You'll see on this piece, I finished just moments ago. Of course, I'm going to experiment on my own. But I'm here to take you on a little ride. Let's do this one. So I just go through the whole steps of painting this one just like the one over there. So some things that I have out, of course, my brushes. I have 4 different brushes, and you've probably seen me use them before. I've got one to apply the light color, mid-tone, and dark, and then I also will be blending it all together. So I have Dixie Belle Oval Small. I have also a Dixie Belle Mini. I do have a Klingon. This is the F30. And then I have a Paint Pixie natural bristle brush that'll do all my blending. I have a mister that's going to keep things nice and wet for me. As far as paint colors, I have, well, I guess I have 3 that I'm using. I started off with a base coat of Birchwood by Flea Market, Decor paint. I'll be using Fluff for the light color, and then I have chocolate that I'll use at the base. One of the things I'm trying on this one is I really want to pop these panels out. So for the top one, I'm going to pop the middle out with a slightly darker color than the color here, and then the bottom a slightly darker color. So I'm not using the same color here and here, but they should each equally have a little bit of depth to them. And so the front's the hardest part because it has all the details. But for starters, keep it simple. I'm going to spin my table around. We'll be working on the side first. And probably what I'll do is flip it around and do the other side, and then we'll save the front for last. So hang on, because maybe the best part is the last part. As always, if you have any questions, holler, let me know what they are. If you're watching the replay, let me know as well. I'm always happy to share what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. I've already got the first coat of paint on there, which is the Birchwood. And if you saw it closely, it doesn't have to be perfect. There's plenty of streaks. Chalk paint does a good job of giving you that great launching pad up there after the first coat's done. So let's get started. I'll paint the top too. The top is going to be Fluff, and I'm going to go from white to about here. I want to kind of aim to my transition to be about mid-drawer. That way I have an easy solid color happening between the 2 drawers. I don't want to do a blending in mid-drawer. I want to save it to about here where it's nice and easy. So it worked out really well from there. I'm happy with the colors overall. It's a nice warm tone. And let's just go ahead and jump in there. Some of the things I have is I have a bucket with a little water in case I need to clean a brush out. But I have a wet rag, and I have a dry rag in case I need to get some water out of a brush. So it might be nice to have a couple of those handy. I guess the other thing I have is paint clothes. So that's always good not to mess up anything else while you're at it. One of my favorite brushes to apply paint, Dixie Belle Oval Small. I really like how flexible the brush is. It bends very easily, but it's also firm. And it's not too large, and it's not too small. So it's just a great little size. So I like that brush a lot. As opposed to, for example, a Klingon brush, you can see there's not much, it's not as much give. So the bristles are a little longer, and so it has a little bit more flexibility. And I like that a lot, especially when I'm trying to get into the grooves of a dresser. The Mini, as you can see, has about the same length of bristle, but it's a flatter, and It's probably the wrong brush for what I've been using it for today, but it does just fine. All I'm trying to do is apply paint. And then you can see up close this brush. This is the blending brush I'll use. I don't need this to be too flexible, just need this to be round and soft. And I think I'm a broken record when I say this, but you gotta work quickly, and that's where the mister comes in. It kind of keeps the paint. You don't necessarily have to put a mist of color down, but it keeps the paint smooth. I did find earlier that it was helpful that I may have to do 2 coats of the fluff on the top. And you might say, why didn't I start with the fluff on the top? And the main reason is I really didn't know what I was doing. When I put the base coat on, I didn't really have a plan as to exactly what technique. I just knew I wanted to have that color as my base, kind of a neutral mid-tone. And then I figured out later until so far my plan's working out really well. We would call this set somewhat vintage. It's, I don't know how exact year, but it's very common for that 70s to 90s kind of. It's not antique. It's got the very decorative front that's usually made of plastic. Not that it's bad, poorly made, it's just that's what they use to mold those. So when you're blending, you could take this all the way down, but I don't want that fluff color to be in too much of my paint. And this is the color that I used. I'm going to go ahead and wet the middle. I'm going to take this color actually all the way down. I'm not going to blend it yet. It would be too dark for me to paint chocolate by itself. So I'm going to put this color all the way down. Right now I'm just applying the color. Remember, I'm going to blend this in a minute. So I'm just getting the paint on. If I put this color all the way down first, then I can blend my chocolate into it and it won't be so dark. It just gives me a nice base. Alright, so Birchwood is down. You can see I keep switching brushes. Alright, so just a little bit of paint. I don't want to cover this, I just want to darken this area up to continue the gradient. And that's really all the chocolate I want. I don't have to totally blend this right now. Now, I'm going to come back and just go ahead and blend this out. And as I mentioned a while ago, it looks like I need a little bit more fluff. Oh, look at that. Alright, it's a little wet. Now it's time for the blending. You can go up or you can go down. I'm actually going to go side to side and I'm going to work my way down. This is where you need it to be wet. If you have any areas that you need to kind of crisscross and blend it, all the way off side to side. If it feels dry, it needs to be wet. I don't want any lines, so I'm going to do a little crisscrossing there and just all the way down. Very soft. Because I have a blend happening, it should allow me to still come back and bring in some more fluff later on to darken up. It's just a little thin right now. You only get so much working time, so I'm going to have to call it a day after a few applications. Don't worry too much. Dusty dresser, hey, thank you. Don't worry too much about being perfect. I mentioned in one of my last lives, if you got a customer sitting down and looking at your piece as close as I'm painting it, they're probably obsessed with furniture. But you need to step back, maybe even where your camera's at. Thank you, Pamela. Where you are from your camera, you can probably see anywhere I need to work on. So that's side one. If you need to take a deep breath right now and before you move on, you can, but I'm going to go ahead and get all my brushes out, spinning this crazy thing around. And let's do the same thing again. I'm not going to mist it first like I did the other side. We'll see if that helps me get this fluff to stick a little bit more. I don't want a hard line at the top, so that's what I'm kind of feathering out where I just painted. I'll come back and clean that up later on. Remember, our goal is to go about to the mid drawer with this. Feel free to let me know if you have any questions. Yeah, the chocolate really worked really well. It has the chocolate has a really nice reddish tone to it. Almost like I painted it a dark rose color, so I like it a lot. Of course, I think the Birchwood has a little bit of red. But I think the Birchwood really wants to dry more green, so I like how the blending is helping that. As I did the other side, I want this I want this color. My dog's barking, it's some noisy outside. I watch some people go live and they have their kids making noise. The kids are past the noise making stage. I have my dog. But I will always encourage my dog to bark at somebody outside. That is kind of the point, right? Just to be a guard dog. He's not a guard dog. He's a giant teddy bear. But when it comes to barking at someone at the door, I am 100% all for it. So I encourage that one. So if you ever want to know if I have a package, he'll probably let us know. So this chocolate, I'm only taking right to just past the edge. I don't want too much of it. And I practically already blended most of that. So here, I'm going to mist it again. I'm going to do a little bit more fluff up here in a minute. But let's go ahead and transition this. Don't worry too much with the fluff coming down. It'll all work its way out. And just a last touch of fluff. It wants to be the thinnest color of them all for some reason. All right. Now for the magic to happen, I think Deadeye, I think sometimes it's just practice and don't be afraid of the process. Okay, so here comes our blending. Got a hair right there. I'm not sure what that is, a hair or I hate those. Doesn't look like it's going to let me get it out. Almost there. Okay, got it. The blending should fix a lot of that. The mister does a good job, but unfortunately the mister doesn't always put down the right amount of water, so I find myself going back to that. But I still find that the mister is better than a squirt bottle, because squirt bottle is too random. All the way down. If you have to, go back and forth and down just to soften that line. I've tried blending with many a paint coat, many paint types. I haven't really been able to find one as good as Dixie Belle. This fluff's really kind of giving me a little fits, but I'll do a little bit of misting will do. If I have to, I will come back and redo this, but I doubt I will. I really don't want to do blending more than once. I just think it's a little clunky. So, okay. Fluff, Birchwood, Chocolate, and Birchwood. That's pretty much the order I did. I'm going to move a few things around. Okay, I mentioned a while ago, this is the more challenging part. Some things I have to keep in mind is when I paint here, I don't want to get paint on the side, so that's a little tricky. And I also want to paint this. I am painting the sides, and I'll do that now. I could paint the sides later. It's just going to come down to how are you doing your blending. In other words, if you're changing halfway, it's kind of hard to do a blend later on. So I just pull it out a little bit. In fact, I have some really big antique screws that I use to pull this out since I have some hardware in there. But as I mentioned a while ago, and if you can see on the side, the blending here is different than blending here. So I'm going to work on the top first, and then we'll do the bottom last. I'll do fluff on the top later on. I'm not going to bore you with applying fluff to the top. I don't know that you can even see that too well. Okay, so we're at the fluff stage. And I'll go ahead and start just at the top. Not sure where you all are from, but Northwest Florida has been crazy hot. So I've been happy to stay inside and do all my outside stuff in the morning and night, but trying to get some painting done. Painted our kitchen. Let's see if we paint. Oh, that's about it. Doing some more work tomorrow on that. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and pull this out a little bit because I want to get the tops and sides. I'm not doing much blending on the tops and sides, so this is a good time to go ahead and do this. All right. Not painting underneath, you don't want to do that. Vegas, oh wow. Does it probably didn't get too humid over there? I'm guessing. I was in Phoenix like 3 summers ago. It was like 119, I think. We don't get 119 here, but it feels like with the humidity it's crazy. All right, so keep in mind now we're getting to kind of a trickier part. And you can see the Dixie Belle brush does a really nice job getting into the cracks. It's very flexible. You need to apply a little bit extra paint. I think I'm going to have to redo this process I'm showing you right now because this fluff just does not want to go down in one coat. So we'll see how it goes, but I may have to come back and do that. But we are still going to do some blending. I want to get this whole nightstand done with you guys here. You need a brush that can really handle just about anything. I think, well, I've been able to prove Dixie Belle's done a good job with theirs. Not that you can't do a good job with another brush, but it's one reason I have my go-to brushes. They haven't let me down, so I'm just going to keep going back to them. I do have some other brushes that I use for like top coating. But you need to make sure you keep your brushes clean, maintained, I guess. Maintained is a good word. Brush is no good to you dirty, dried up. Okay, so as I mentioned before, this is kind of tricky because I had to do all that detail painting, and now I need to do some blending. So mist, if you need to, keep that wet. Now I'm going to come back with the birchwood. And remember I mentioned I want the middles to be dark. There's that birchwood. In fact, I'm going to even use the birchwood on the angled parts. I'm not going to do all three. I'll come back to that in a minute. This is where now I'm going to go ahead and blend. This is one reason why I don't paint in the garage or outside in the workshop. My living room is large enough, thankfully. So I'm using my Paint Pixie brush to blend. I just want to soften the edges. Okay. And one more. Not a lot of paint, just enough to get some color in there, deepen the space, give it some depth, is a good word. All right. So, you should be able to see how I kind of recessed that space. I've been mentioning all along that the fluff needs a little bit extra. I may come back again later on and touch up some of that. It's so white. White just has a problem, and Birchwood's darker. It's probably going to take me 2 coats in some of the fluff areas, and that's okay. What I just did caused a little bit of paint to get, feel free just to come and soften that up. What I don't want to see is a bunch of hard brush strokes. All right, so that's the top shelf, top drawer. I'm not too worried about someone coming really close and saying, I see a brush stroke. This is not the furniture for them. If they have to see, if they're concerned about brush strokes, they probably need to find a furniture painter who likes to spray. I have nothing against spraying furniture, but that's just not what I do right now. I have the ability to spray, I have the setup to spray. It's just not as easy for me to do. I enjoy the brush. Okay. As I mentioned a while ago, I'm kind of making this region right here my transition. So I want to go ahead and use the birchwood it's good to have your pieces next to each other because you need to blend them together. And while my fluff is wet here, I'm able to go ahead and kind of blend that in. If you need to, get a little bit on the sides. I'll pull this drawer out in a minute. I don't need to worry about blending down below because I haven't painted it, but you can see now how soft that is. Paint in the garage, it's hot, mosquitoes. I went outside just for a moment while ago. I came in and I got something burning. I'm like, I was out there for like 30 seconds. Mosquitoes are bad. And I'm sure it depends on where you live and your water. Okay, so my blending's done. And so I'm going to go ahead and get the sides of this. Other side. Remember I mentioned a while ago, I want to be careful not to go over the side. Did all that blending. You could paint the front first. I don't know. It's not what I did. But keep an eye on, make sure you didn't get any paint on your beautiful blending. My brush is nice and precise for the most part. Okay. On the side. For now, I'm going to go ahead and push that in. We'll come back to that in a minute. I want to go ahead and finish my blending all the way down. Keep an eye on this inside part too. I think I forgot that on the other dresser, but you need to get the insides. If your drawers are not, there's a gap there. I do not like having real wood shown. Okay, I've already blended this side, so I want to go straight out. I haven't distressed a piece in a while, but this might be one that I could do that on. Thanks, Kelly. I'm really just showing a technique that you can exchange the colors with any other 3 colors. I know I demonstrated one not long ago with pink, white, and gray. It's the same process, you just have to have the right steps, right brushes, keep it wet, that kind of thing. I did have to do a good bit of prep. There were a few dents and dings on this, so it took me a day or two to kind of get everything cleaned and tidied up. The way they built this furniture, they just put brad nails everywhere. And when you're painting something light like this, all those imperfections show up. All right, here's that chocolate. May have to do a little misting here. I don't want too much. You can keep an eye on your first one. The first one kind of sets the standard because everything's got to follow that or it's not going to look like a matching set. Now, keep in mind, these pieces are not going to be sitting next to each other in the bedroom, so anybody that would say they're not exact will be separated by a bed, so. Softening right here. All right, we have this to do, so let's knock this out. Back to our birchwood. I am going to go ahead and pull this out. You saw me do the top. We're going to do the same step. Get it all painted first. I'm not using this. Here I use Birchwood. Here I'm using chocolate. There's a little bit of value work at play here. Meaning, if I put birch, like fluff, I just need whatever I put here to be darker than what I'm working with. So you make sure your value is working well. If you ever paint a color and it doesn't get darker, you unfortunately have the wrong value. One of these days I'll get it done, but I started working on a Dixie Belle color wheel to help illustrate value as well, not just what colors they have available. But every color has a value. For example, if black was 100%, white was 0, you can imagine we're going from 0 to probably 40%, maybe 50% value. So when you're choosing colors, it's not just about what color it is, it's what value it is too. And value can play in when you're choosing things like glazes. Yeah, I think it would be great. I need to get one of Dixie Belle's true color charts, not the one that they print, but the one that actually has their real paint. That'll help me, because I have a few colors I'm not quite sure on as far as value goes. There's no sense doing all that work if it's not going to be fairly accurate. Okay, I'm putting chocolate on. Not too worried about being neat and tidy with this. The blending brush is going to work wonders for me. I just want to get this color in there to darken it up. So this is just simply straight up Boss, or Fluff. Boss. It reminds me of Boss. Boss is what? Boss I have is white. So there's nothing fancy happening right here other than just keep it smooth. You notice I put a quick mist of water. It keeps the paint nice and flexible. Go on the back side here. Block the view. You could use a larger brush for this, but I've already got this one wet. I mentioned before that based on the first one, I think this one's going to need 2 coats. The top is probably one of the most important places to get right, because this is where they're going to be putting their lamp, their glasses, whatever else. And when they're in the store, they're looking down at it. So sometimes I'll do blending on the tops, but I have a lot of blending going on. I'm going to let this one stop at the sides and the front. I'm going to keep the top simple. So it's important to keep the top right. Now I may change my mind tomorrow after I see it all dry. I think I'm going to leave the top white. Other colors you could try for the top, cotton would work. Anything close to the whites. Alright, nice and smooth, just back and forth. If you're not going to do that, then I might just do more of a random crisscross pattern, but Dixie Belle Paint is so smooth that it allows me to create a nice smooth top. I'll let this sit until tomorrow and do any last minute touch-ups. I mentioned before, I can already tell there's some thin areas. I'll come back. I may have to reblend the top, that's fine. But the concept works. Yeah, gator hide. So far, big fan. Alright, let's just push this in. I'm about to sign off, so if you have any questions while I'm live, let me know. I need to get the drawers out. I don't have any more scrapes. The paint's really soft when it's wet, hasn't cured all the way. So there's the two matching pieces together. The dresser is here, and that'll probably come tomorrow. All right, so thanks for joining me today. Hope you learned something. If you have any questions, again, if you're watching replay, shoot them here, let me know. And maybe we'll go live tomorrow, work on the dresser. It's going to be a challenge. There's panels galore on the thing like you just saw, so I'm just going to take it easy, take some time to get it right, but it's going to take a good bit of time, and I'm sure you can appreciate when it's done how much work it'll take to do it. But it's better, it's a little bit more fun, and these will stand out a little bit more than just being white or tan, so I'm excited about it. Thanks for joining me, and glad you can come in today, and catch me tomorrow or another day. Glad you're here. Have a great day.
That's the end of the show. Make sure you subscribe and ring the bell before you go. Bye.